Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing? Or should I say good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are in the world. How's it going? I hope you're well. Welcome to another episode of the Friday Mind Reset Live. I see we have a few people in the house, so welcome. My name is Tony Biola, for those of you who do not know. And it's so good to see you on this beautiful sunny evening. How are we doing? Let's just see who we have in the house. I'd like to say a big welcome to our Facebook friends and also those of you who are watching live on YouTube. Welcome. Hi, Laura. Maxine, how you doing? Philippa. S7, I see you in the house. And Wilma, how's it going? So, okay, well, welcome to another episode, as I say. And this evening we are still in the theme of spirituality, and we're talking about a movie called The Matrix. So, but before I go into that, I want to just put the context so that those of you who are visiting or tuning in for the first time will be able to understand our format. So we will, this evening, I am going to give you a treat. So we're going to spend some time making the connection between The Matrix, the movie, and spirituality. And then I'm going to play you a recording or part of a recording of an exclusive interview that I did with the lady behind The Matrix, the original creator, supposedly, of the movie The Matrix. Her name is Sophia Stewart. And I was blessed back in 2016 to have met with her, and we became friends, and she gave an interview which she allowed me to record, and I'll be sharing some of that with you. And we'll do that until about 9 o'clock, and then we'll go private into our part two, which will be exclusively for our members, where we will be able to break it down, ask questions off air, obviously, and maybe even play you some more of that recording. So why are we doing this evening? Well, it's because we want to share and show and expand. Our mission is really to make people aware of what I refer to as the GPS system, which stands for Grow Personal Success. The idea being that we're living in a new time, a new era. And in this new era, it's about understanding how we need to operate and how we need to bring ourselves, empower ourselves to be able to be successful, if that is what we wish. And when I say successful, I mean based on your definition. So gaining a sense of what that is and then taking the necessary action. And so the GPS system, just as a recap, for those who are not familiar, is based on the idea that there are 5 areas of our lives that we need to focus our attention on and visualize and do the work to establish a clear image of those areas. And they are our mental and emotional state, our spiritual state in terms of our belief systems, the state of our relationships, the state of our business, money, and finance, and the state of our mind. And so this month is the month that we're talking about spirituality. And as I said, when we're talking about spirituality, it is not based on religion, but it's about understanding the different dimensions, as it were. And so this movie, The Matrix, is a real good way of us expanding that sense of awareness. Because let me ask you a question. Did you know that the movie The Matrix has spiritual connotations? And let's make this interactive. So please put in the chat if you are able to hear me and see me, because I've just seen a message that suggests perhaps that might not be the case. So before we jump into it, if you can, yes, I can. Okay, I take it that's yes, I can. see and hear you. All right, Sean. Great stuff. So we're going to make this interactive this evening, as I said. So I'd like to start off by asking the question, how many people know that there is a spiritual message in the movie The Matrix? Hi, Laura, how you doing? So anyone want to share a thought, an idea? Okay, so you're not sure, perhaps. Well, first of all, I want to kind of put everything into context. At least put a chat or say hi or say yes or thumbs up if you actually seen the movie The Matrix. If you've seen it, because if you haven't seen it, it's going to be really difficult for me to break it down for you. Okay. All right. So, okay, we have got a yes. Okay, so I want to start off just by putting the context together in terms of when this movie actually came out. So, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this movie came out on the 11th of June, 1999. That is over 20 years ago. Now, you definitely want to go and watch this movie, woman, because it really was ahead of its time. So here we are, a movie that came out in 1999, and boy, did it blow everyone's mind. But to put it into context in terms of what kind of world we were living in back then, there was no such company as Facebook in 1999. And all of the Internet of Things hadn't really kicked off either. In fact, Amazon had only just started a few years prior, 1994. So that kind of gives you a context of what was going on. You know, a lot of the social media platforms just did not exist. Yet this movie is set, and if you watch it, for those of you who haven't watched it, it's a movie that speaks almost exactly about the time that we're living in. See, the Matrix is a movie that really is talking about, well, its main character is a gentleman called Neo, and the movie really it talks about two parallel universes that most people are not aware. In fact, majority of the human race are not aware that they are living in this thing called the Matrix. And if you watch the movie, it starts off by showing and stating that most people are living in the Matrix and the Matrix is all around them. And unbeknown to them, they're thinking that they're living in a reality, but actually, the reality is an illusion. It is a computer generated, simulated experience. And so people think that they're living, but they're not. What's actually happened is that from birth, they have been uh, turned into vegetables, in effect, by AI. And they're literally being used as energy, a human battery, to fuel this matrix. And I want to make the correlation between the movie and our reality because basically what the movie was wanting to convey was a number of different messages. And so today I want to share some of those messages before I play the interview with Sophia Stewart. So the first thing that it was pointing out, I remember the year 1999. This was a movie that was trying to show people who were awake that all is not what it appears to be, that we're living in an illusion based on trickery of the mind. And society has been manipulated. And it was really a plea for humanity to kind of wake up. So Sophia Stewart says in our interview. And Sophia Stewart, as a character, refers to herself as a seer. What is a seer? A seer is a person who has the ability to, and it might sound crazy, but when you watch the movie, some of the stuff I'm saying may not sound so crazy after all. As a seer, she said that she had the ability to transcend time, meaning that she had the ability to go back in time and the ability to go ahead of time. And so what she said was that she was able to go in time ahead of time and therefore see the future and then come back into the present and download it. And hence, some of the things that were actually in the movie had not even been invented at the time, back in 1999. And she said, this is the ability that this is how she was able to do this. And so I found that really intriguing. But the message behind this movie, where it's really a fight against truth, the suppression of truth and truth. And in the film, effectively, Morpheus believes with his entire being that there is going to be a person who happens to be Neo, who is going to come and save the whole of the population, the resistance that were fighting against the Matrix, the AI, the computer-generated system. Now, that speaks and sounds a lot like religion, right? And so there's the correlation. But in the movie, what Sophia actually broke down to me was that the movie was actually communicating so many things to us, that one of them being that we, all of us, have to make a decision to seek truth. You know, there's a scene in the movie where there's a red pill and a blue pill. And Morpheus says to Neo, look, I can show you, the things I'm saying to you sound crazy, but I can show you, but you have a choice. You can either take, I believe it's the blue pill, and go back to your illusionary existence, or you can take the red pill and I'll be able to enable you to come out of the matrix, and then you'll be able to see the truth. But that's all I'm going to be able to show you, the truth. And so the question becomes, do you want the truth, or do you want to stay in this illusion? And Neo decided that he wanted to find the truth. Now, the question is, how many of us are wanting to wake up to the truth, as opposed to how many of us are wanting to stay in the illusionary state? And you can basically get a sense of who you are, really, what type you are. The person who wants to stay in the state of illusion doesn't really like to ask questions, does what they're told, responds to authority in a very submissive way, almost kind of like what's happening right now, would you believe, with COVID and the government and governments around the world, where people are just being told, take a vaccine and you must take this vaccine. It's going to be good for you. Now, I'm not saying right or wrong, but the point, and I'm not saying whether you should or you shouldn't, but the point I'm making is that it's about being able to ask questions and seek the truth for yourself, as opposed to allowing ourselves to be spoon-fed. But for me, the most intriguing thing of all of this was that on deciding to seek the truth and coming out of the matrix, things didn't go according to plan. But one of the things that Morpheus spoke about, he said, we don't normally take people out of the matrix when they reach a certain age because the mind has a resistance to change. And so as we're now living in 2021 and we've experienced lockdown and COVID, and life isn't really going to be the same again, I want to ask you, how open are you and how ready are you for change? Are you prepared for it? Are you adjusted for it mentally, emotionally? The number of people that I've heard and come into contact with, plus the statistics that speak about the impact on our mental stability as a result of the COVID and its repercussions. I mean, there's going to be a big problem in many countries to do with our mental state. How are we prepared for that? Are we prepared for that? But the other interesting thing, and I think the most important point, is that the movie The Matrix was basically a cry out to people through entertainment to say, wake up to the reality, wake up to the change that's coming, wake up and be proactive. You know, there was a scene when Neo took the red pill and he then started to learn different things through computer simulated programs. He literally was able to learn how to fight kung fu and all different martial arts simply by just loading a chip and downloading this. But the interesting thing was when he downloaded these programs, he had to go into a simulator fighting room where he was fighting Morpheus to prove that he had learned the lessons, the training. And when I watched it, I thought, this is very much like how we are today, in that many people think that they're awake, many people think that they're woke and they're conscious, but do they actually prove it, or is it all in their head? Is it a theory? Do they put it into practice and demonstrate it? See, I believe that we have some rocky roads ahead of us, but that movie was letting us know that all is not lost. I mean, imagine in 1999, the film was talking about the power of artificial intelligence and how it was going to run and influence our lives. And here we are today, you know, the internet, computers, they all have a serious bearing on our lives. But one of the things that Sophia said to me about the movie was that there was lots of messages, and the biggest message was in the name of the character, the main character, Neo. Neo was the guy who was supposedly going to come and disrupt the matrix and bring people to that place and that state of awareness. But she said, Tony, do you know that the message is that we are all Neos? And I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, take the name Neo, take the letters N-E-O. I'm like, yeah. She said, well, change the letters around and what do you get? What other word can you get? And then it dawned on me. I was like, oh, wow. The letter O-N-E. And she said, precisely. Because what the movie was showing is that for those of us who are conscious, we are all potentially Neos. We all have the power, the capacity, the ability within us if we would just seek the truth. It's kind of deep, isn't it? We all have the capacity in us if we would just be seekers of the truth. Yes, it's going to be difficult. Yes, it might be challenging, but it's about the activating of your faith and believing in yourself, believing and knowing that the truth will set you free. And I was like, wow, that was just amazing. So it's so many different messages, but that one ultimately is the one that we want to take away. And the question, therefore, is, do you believe that you should just carry on doing your 9 to 5 or running your business or doing what you're doing in pursuit of the small things, nice house, nice car, those kind of things, and you don't want to rock the boat? Or are you someone who is seeking the truth, someone who recognizes that things don't sound right, things don't feel right? Things are literally hidden in plain sight. And in order for you to understand this new era that we're living in the movie, it speaks about that you have to feel what's going on. You see, if you trust your naked eyes, that's where the trick is played upon you and you see an illusion. And so it's about being able to tune into yourself and tap into what you believe to be the truth, but then proving it to yourself and being confident in that. And once you have done that work on yourself, then it's about doing the work and sharing so that others might become aware of the truth also. I want to invite anyone to give their take on the movie before I play the recording that I have from Sophia Stewart. I'm only going to play about 10 minutes and then we will go into discussion about the movie. So I see that who would like to either ask a question or give a comment for those of you who've watched the movie? I see we have Michael Oni with us today. Now, I know you've watched the movie. Oni, are you able to give us some insight from your perspective? I'm going to invite you. Are you there? I'm not sure. Are you able to speak, Michael? No, it doesn't look like he is. Does anyone else want to give us a comment? Okay, all right. Well, I think that we will then go into the video recording that I have. So bear with me a moment. I'm just going to go off screen and then I'll pull up the recording. Okay, bear with me a moment. Okay, we have a little technical. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and tell me if you can hear this. So before I start this, as I said, this interview took place in 2016, just before Donald Trump came into office. And she says that this was symbolic of the change. And she was talking about some of the things that the movie was trying to communicate, how change is an inevitable thing, and how we must wake up. So let me press play. And if you can put a thumbs up if you can hear.
Won over 306 protected copyrights. As soon as Donald Trump comes into office, they're gonna get arrested. They've been paying to stay out of jail with Obama's administrations, the Department of Justice, Eric Holder. And I'm not saying that Obama had anything to do with it, but he could have put a check on Eric Holder. Eric Holder was getting money from all those Jews.
Wow.
Not to prosecute them. And he's working for him right now, Goldman Sachs.
Wow.
As soon as Obama kicked him out because he was going behind Obama's back. As Obama kicked him out because he was going. They're trying to merge with AT&T is trying to pick him up. First, Apple tried to pick him up, but they didn't want Apple, so AT&T is trying to pick him up. But AT&T is a big raggedy ship that's gonna disperse anyway, because they've been stealing from people for years, and so have Warner Brothers stealing. And when you steal like that, it atrophies you out of business because you don't have to steal. No one has to steal. Did you know that?
Did I know that? Because yes, I know that. But how comes they don't know that?
Because they're greedy.
Oh,
because
listen.
They're greedy. That's why they don't care.
Everything that you're saying, I'm with. I'm just going to pause there. Basically, what she's talking about is the fact that, as I say, she was the original creator of the movie, but powers that be stole the manuscript and then turned the manuscript into a movie. And she'd been fighting the case to get her acknowledgement and her just rewards. So she's giving us a little bit of the background of some of the things that she had to endure. Okay, so I'll press play and we'll continue.
What I'm speaking about is the absolute truth, and there's nothing anybody can do about the truth.
Absolutely. You've always been an ambassador of the truth.
Yes, and that's what they couldn't beat me. And they were wondering, how did I win the lawsuit pro se? Do you know I had to go in there, and those racist judges were keeping, it was like about 3 more other white law firms, and they were trying to get my case dismissed, the second court case in Utah in the federal courts. 4 sets of them tried to get my case dismissed in California. You hear me?
I'm hearing you.
And then they had my case just shut down. And, but they didn't, Warner Brothers didn't win anything. I didn't lose anything. All they wanted to do was get the case shut down because it was criminal and they were going to go to jail. Because I had a RICO case going on.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. So, have you been awarded?
Yeah, I've been awarded the money, over $307,000. I'm in the process of collecting that money, and the liens, you have to go through a process to get that. I can put them into a debtor's exam, or I can wait for the FBI and or the DOJ to come in and arrest them, which is more likely is going to happen because of all their friends that they've been paying the money to, I just told you, are going out of power because Donald Trump is changing the whole regime.
Wow.
This is why they were fighting so hard, and Hollywood was one of the biggest people against Donald Trump. Don't you remember that?
Well, I didn't know that, but was that the case, that there's so many people against Donald Trump because they knew he was going to change up the whole system?
Yeah, he's changing the whole system. New people are coming in. Hillary wanted to stay in to help him. So a lot of people, because they wanted to stay in power, all these people, but it's called trading places. So now all of them, this is what the fight is about, because you don't see white people fighting against white people. Now you can see if that was a black man coming in like Obama, all this crazy stuff. But what they're fighting against Donald Trump is because change is coming in. And they are all the people, they're so top, they're going to the bottom, and they are losing everything. And they cannot believe that their lives are turby-topsy. They cannot, because see, they've been paying payola, they've been doing all kinds of unscrupulous things to stay in power and to do the things that they've done to the common people. Now all that's going to change, because now they're going to the bottom, and everybody that was at the bottom that was getting treated bad is going to the top.
So I just want to pause there. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is 2016 that we're having this interview, and she's talking about change, and she's talking about Donald Trump symbolizing this new era of change. And here we are. I mean, look what has happened under Donald Trump's watch. Isn't it surprising, to say the very least, that we've never had a president in America that has been and done and been so controversial as Donald Trump? And yet this interview was taken before he'd even established himself fully in office. Anyway, let's continue. So I say let's continue, and then it sounds like it's frozen. So bear with me a moment.
I was surprised that it hasn't come through the news. Was that the case, that there's so many people against Donald Trump because they knew he was going to change up the whole system?
Yeah, he's changing the whole system. New people are coming in. Hillary wanted to stay in to help him. So a lot of people, because they wanted to stay in power, all these people, but it's called trading places. So now all of them, this is what the fight is about, because you don't see white people fighting against white people. Now you can see if that was a black man coming in like Obama, all this crazy stuff. But what they're fighting against Donald Trump is because change is coming in. And they are all the people, they're so top, they're going to the bottom, and they are losing everything. And they cannot believe that their lives are turby-topsy. They cannot, because see, they've been paying payola, they've been doing all kinds of unscrupulous things to stay in power and to do the things that they've done to the common people. Now all that's going to change, because now they're going to the bottom, and everybody that was at the bottom that was getting treated bad is going to the top.
So
they can't stand it. Some of them are going to kill themselves. You're going to see a lot of suicides coming up in 2017.
Wow. So you,
as they begin to lose power, watch. Go ahead.
So you're totally in favor of the fact that Donald Trump has been elected?
Yes, because I made the oracle prophecy that Donald Trump was going to be the president. I recorded it. I told all of them. They asked me why. I even told them why, because the scripture in the Bible tells you that you can't take the old into the new. You can only take new wine into new wineskins, because if you take the old wine into the new wineskins, it's going to burst the bag. Well, that's the scripture that God is telling you, that you can't mix the new with the old. It's just not going to happen. You can only bring in new with the new. And what they were trying to do was, Hillary was trying to bring in the whole aura of Obama and bring in the old shit that she's got going on. And that wasn't going to happen for 2017, because that's the new.
Wow.
God says everything must change. Nothing can remain the same. And these people, Hillary and Obama, they were fighting against change. They was fighting against progress. It's the same thing that happened with those damn people 100 years ago, when they had the damn horse and buggies, and they were fighting the damn cars.
Wow.
They didn't want the cars. Come on.
I hear you.
The cars is progress. The cars is change. It doesn't matter what's coming with the cars. It doesn't matter what's coming with the change. And God says everything must change. Nothing can't stay the same. Progress in life is change.
Wow.
You can't stop changes.
No, it's part of nature. It's a force of nature.
It's a force of nature. It's just like a river is getting ready to cut itself down the middle of a city or a town, and you try to prevent that, and you won't tell the people they need to move, and then all of a sudden the river just cuts right through there and destroys people and buildings and everything because you trying to prevent it, trying to stop it. You can't stop a force of nature.
Wow.
That's what the cataclysms are about. That's what the earthquakes are about. The earthquakes destroys people who are like locusts. They're eating, but they're not balancing out. Like I say, my native blood, I come native blood, Cherokee, Portuguese, Spanish blood. And in our spiritual realms, you can't fight against nature. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
When people try to fight against nature, and then like they won't balance out. If you take from the earth, you must give back to the earth. You can't come like a locust and just eat, and take, and steal.
I hear you.
Kill. You have to leave the earth.
Wow.
You become a scourge. You become an abomination. And so therefore you can't stay here. You represent death. You got to leave.
Oh God. And if you don't leave, you get taken out.
You get taken out. How do you get taken out? With a tsunami, with a fire, with an earthquake, with a hurricane, tornado.
Wow. That's some serious, I hear you, but that's some serious stuff for people.
Go ahead.
Some people would find that really a bitter pill to swallow, that we're saying that, you know, these tsunamis and all of these natural disasters that are happening is a way of purification.
Well, yeah, man causes them. God doesn't call them. There's no natural disaster. Man causes it.
Right.
Man doesn't give back to the earth. He creates a void. The void is the cataclysm. The void is the tsunami. The void is the hurricane. Whatever is going on.
I hear you. So it's man-made.
Yeah, because man is creating a void.
Yes.
Because everything has to balance, because God is a balancer. So if you take, you must give. If you give, you must receive. And if you don't do that, you're not balancing out. You can't just take, and you can't just give and not receive. You got to leave too. Because everything is give and receiving. It's give and you receive.
Wow. So, Sophia, but you're just saying something that's really profound. So you're saying even the person who just gives is
has to leave. That's right.
Wow.
Because you gotta receive.
Wow.
You're not balancing out. You're not balancing out according to the laws of God, the universal laws.
My goodness, you have just taught me something. One of my students was having difficulty about charging for his services, and what you have just said, I'm going to let him listen to it because you've just answered his concerns.
Yes, please let me tell him. Because we balance out. This is what the natives were talking about when they were taught the white man when he came. They tell him you can't just take and not give. You take from the earth, you must put back. If you take a tree from the earth, you must plant some trees in the earth. You can't just take up trees and then don't put nothing back in there.
Wow. That's amazing. So that suggests that 2017 is going to be a serious year in the United States.
It's already gearing up. Why do you think they're getting scared? The people who know about this, they're the ones that are scared even more.
Because they know what's coming, right?
That's right. They don't even tell you why they don't like Donald Trump. How can one man scare all of these people? Come on, be for real.
I hear you. Yeah, I knew something was going on.
It's the forces behind him that's coming in. He's the omen. It's just like in the mythology, the Titans, when the king stole the kingdom, he killed the king and his wife and all the people and took slaves, and then there was a baby. He couldn't kill the baby because the baby was his destiny. He was trying to kill the baby. He was told, you kill the baby, you die, because that's your destiny. And you'll know it, your reign has come to an end when you see a man with one sandal on. Then when he see the man with one sandal, he knows it's time for him to die and his kingdom to end. And he did everything he could to try to kill the guy with the one sandal. But he died as a prophecy. So Donald Trump is like an omen. It's signifying to all of them that their reign has come to an end.
Oh my goodness. Are you for real?
That's right. Their reign has come to an end. And they want to keep it so horrific because all they've been doing is stealing from the people, all of them. This is why you see such a depression. And there's no need to. There's 540 billionaires in America.
Say that again.
Billionaires in any other countries. Google it. 540 billionaires are in America.
Wow.
So why do we have poverty? Why is it depressive like this? Why are people living on the streets?
Well, I'd love to get your thoughts on that. I just shared you an excerpt, so an extract from the recording. If you want to listen to the full version, then for those of you who have membership, it's in the private members area. But I just wanted to play a little bit of that because there were some interesting things that I wanted to pick up there. So she's saying back in 2016 that change is coming and that there are forces who are not pleased with the changes that are coming because it's going to change their status quo, the natural order of things. Some people who have been happily dining at the table in control of things were not pleased because of Donald Trump being the omen symbolizing change. And so something had to be done. Now, look at what has happened since 2017 to this day. I'm just saying, let's just look at the information. Doesn't it seem a little strange that within a few years, whilst under the watch of Donald Trump, COVID should happen? And this rush for everyone to be vaccinated in terms of, what is it? Is it a case that this was a desperate attempt to, as she says, work with that change, to fight against that change? Michael says she's saying everything that we witnessed with Donald Trump's reign. No, you can see why they wanted to get rid of him. Now, every time I listen to it, I'm like, well, this is, I don't even know what to say. Because this happened in 2016. And here we are in 2021. And everything that she's saying has played out. I mean, have you ever seen a president be attacked and vilified in the way that Donald Trump has been? Ever? And she's saying this before it actually gets played out. Well, if I was doubting whether she was a seer or not, I'm convinced now. And so for me is a wake-up call. And this is why I wanted to bring the spirituality and the matrix together, because what it symbolizes for me, the fact that Donald Trump is out of office, but he has been completely silenced, as I understand it. Facebook, Twitter, like completely silenced. Why? Could it be that those who have the power don't want the population at large to know what's really going on and want the matrix to stay as it is? Either way, what it suggests to me is that we should not take on face value what we see. We should feel, use our deeper senses. Does this feel right? Does this seem normal? I'm just asking the question, because spirituality gives you the ability to be able to go beyond what is just in front of your eyes. The other thing that she said that I thought was really worth bringing up, did you hear what she said? That if you don't know how to balance out you as an individual, that life will take you out. You've got to go. You see, by spiritual law, life just doesn't appreciate and abhors emptiness. Everything in life has a purpose. And so the question then becomes, what is your purpose? As she said, are you the kind of person that is just taking from life? As she said, if you're just taking, you got to go. And we all know people like that, but that's all they're good for. They just want to take what you've got. But she also said something that blew my mind away, which was that equally, if you're a giver, and I'm speaking to all my sisters out there who, in your day-to-day life, you're always there for other people, but never there for yourself, or you don't like to ask for your own need when you're in need. She said, if you're just a giver and all you do is give, then you got to go too, because it's not balanced. And so I want you to just think about that for a moment. Meaning, are you living a balanced life? Are you living a life with purpose and intention? Because in the times that we're living in now, it seems like those who do not have purpose and those who are not being balanced in giving and receiving, you're at high risk. And I just want you to think about that. You see, because I believe in the new era that we're living in, one of the ways that you can not just survive, but thrive is to have a purpose for your very existence. And one that's not just linked to you, yourself, and I, but is based on you making a contribution, you playing a role. I think that we still have some turbulent times ahead of us, but I believe that this is one of the ways that you can anchor yourself and, like I said, not just survive, but thrive. Donald Trump, then for me, if this is true, was a brave guy, is a brave guy, that he was prepared to take on. But it makes you wonder, what forces was he dealing with? And he obviously had to have a whole lot of support because they just didn't take him out. We shall see. I mean, I want to hear from from you in terms of your thoughts and your comments. And if you found it interesting and useful, maybe I may play some other stuff. There's a few other clips that I was thinking of playing where she speaks directly to people of color. And what you realize is, as it says in the Matrix really affects us all in every area of our lives, at work, at the church, at home with your family, in politics, in economics. It's everywhere. And it's about cultivating this new sense of awareness. And I truly believe that it's only those individuals that do the work on themselves to gain that conscious awareness. Only those people will be able to see through the myths and the illusion that is being promoted on all of us. Just to give you an example to bring it right up to date, I was speaking to someone earlier on this week, and they said, "Did you know, Tony, about the riots and the protesting that was going on in France earlier this week?" And I said, "No, I didn't know about it." He said, go and look." And I went and Googled, and sure enough, mass protests. Why? Because the president had hinted the fact that it might come to the fact that unless you've been vaccinated, you won't have the ability to enjoy the freedoms of normal citizens, like travel on the buses and go into shops and restaurants and things of that nature, things that we take for granted. Now, what's the point I'm making here? The idea of censorship, that we never heard about it here in the UK at all. Who is then determining what we get exposed to, what information comes to us? Are we in the matrix, or are we free, is the question. Similarly, in the UK, there have been marches. I was out training the other day, and the gentleman I was training with said, "Yeah, I went to the march twice, and there were more than 1 million people in Parliament Square, but you didn't hear anything from the news." Why is that? I'm just asking the questions. And maybe that's what we should be doing a lot more of, asking more questions. So Michael says, no one can see why they wanted to. Oh, I think he says now he can see why they wanted to get rid of Donald Trump. Wilma says it's about controlling the people. So what if this movie was that warning in plain sight to let you know, to let us know that this is what was coming and this is what is here now? So what do we do? Well, this is where I believe that it's about being anchored. It's about being centered. It's about working on yourself, turning more inwardly than outwardly, and not allowing ourselves to be fooled or bamboozled by all sorts of information that's coming to us. The world has definitely changed. And I believe now that this is the time when we get to see who we really are. Difficult times are ahead, but I truly believe if you're anchored, and if you are in and part of a community of consciously aware individuals, then you will see beyond the veil, and recognizing that you are the one, do the work that really needs to be done on you. So I'm going to pause now because it's 5 to 9. I want to open up to see if there's any questions before we go private. And then when we go private, as I said, I'm more than happy to play some more extracts from that interview if you would like. Okay, so do we have any comments or questions for the general group? Now, I believe that my brother Michael, I was speaking with him earlier on this week, said that he had watched the movie. Michael, would you like to share a comment with us as to your take on the movie and also what you heard from the recording of Sophia Stewart? I'm going to invite you to speak. I know you're tuning in on the background. Are you there, Michael?
Good afternoon, Tony.
Hey, how you doing?
Evening. Can you hear?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Yes.
Well, you're fading in and out, actually. Try again.
Okay. So what first came to me when I first watched the movie, and I watched it again recently, is the whole concept of waking up, having taken the pill and waking up to see things and experience things differently. And I think we're all going through that process at the moment. Like you said, COVID has changed everything and have forced millions of people to now wake up and see the world differently. So that was my biggest takeaway from the film.
Right.
And with regard to the Donald Trump situation and the interview, it's really interesting that Trump has been silenced and we don't hear nothing more of him today. And he was, like you said, against the media industry, against the music industry, against a lot of the establishments. So there is a process of change taking place. I think it's just waiting to see how it all unfolds.
Yes, but you see that, and I love the comment that you just made, because that really gets us into a position of conversation now, Michael, in the fact that what Sophia was saying is that that waiting is what we should not do. Because just like Neo could have just waited, but he decided when we come to, you see, the waking up that we are required to, life is inviting us to, is waking up to the realization that you, one, Michael, you are the one. I am the one. And in realizing that we are the one, then we begin to do the work, the training. We believe, there's a part in the movie that says where Morpheus is training Neo, and he says, I actually wrote it down. He said that basically, paraphrasing, don't think that you're the one, be the one. Know that you're the one, that you are a solution center to this problem. And that's the waking up, that it's not a case of us waiting to see what other people are going to do, because everybody's waiting to see what others are going to do. Does that make sense, Michael? What do you think and feel about that?
I agree. But what I also saw in the movie is when the character realized, before he realized he was the one, he had to go through a process.
Absolutely.
And part of that process is gaining awareness about yourself, gaining confidence, self-esteem, and belief.
Yes.
So although people were telling him, and we're telling everyone, and we're trying to point and show things, people have to experience it themselves.
That's a fantastic point, because in one scene, you might recall, there was actually a contradiction. When Morpheus had been captured, I don't know if you remember this scene. So Morpheus had been captured. Neo had gone to see the Oracle.
Yes.
And the Oracle had said, a point in time is going to come when you are going to have to choose your life or Morpheus's life. I mean, what a position to be in. And so here he is, And he remembers that oracle prophecy. And he sees that Morpheus is going to be killed. And he says, I have to go back. But at the same time, he says to the lady, I'm not the one. Complete contradiction. And as you rightfully said, he was driven by his conviction of who he was. So on the one hand, his head is saying, I'm not the one. But on a deeper level, beyond his mind, when they are telling him what you're about to do is suicidal, it's never been done before, he says, but I feel that I must do this. And I say that because I know that you're a man who lives very much like that through being in touch with your feelings, right? As a guiding compass.
Yeah, that's true. Yes.
And so, as you said, as a result of having made a decision and then going for it, it's as if once he'd made that decision and started to move in that direction, then all of these superpowers began to just unveil themselves, like him being able to dodge bullets and
I
things.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very important point that you just made there. And so I guess it speaks to the importance of us, as much as we can, doing the work that we can on ourselves, also making conscious decisions in terms of who we're moving with, who's speaking into our lives, who we're associating ourselves with, all of these things, basically doing whatever you think you can do to aid yourself, but always asking questions.
Yeah. I think also the universe, God eventually places us in a position where we act beyond our logic and our thoughts. So like he did, you become so committed, your intent becomes so strong. You don't think what's possible with what's within your capability, you just do.
Yes.
And in stepping out, that's for me, the true sense of stepping out in faith, not thinking about the outcome. You're just committed.
That's right.
And as he was, and then the universe can start, the miracles can start happening around you.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing, Michael. I knew that we would get a real interesting contribution from yourself. I'd like you to hang around just in case, because we're going to say goodbye to our Facebook family and also YouTube, and then carry on the conversation for a few minutes. As I said, I may even play a little bit more from the recording. So I hope for those of you who are on Facebook and YouTube, you found it insightful. Definitely go watch the movie. I think that's really what I wanted you to do, if nothing else. Watch the movie with an expanded consciousness and remembering that this was produced over 20 years ago, but boy, how relevant is it to what's going on today? And you get to choose what character you're going to play. Are you going to be a Neo? Or are you going to be a Morpheus? Or are you going to be like the guy who acted as a traitor? Do you remember that guy, Michael? And
yes,
he was, I mean, it just demonstrates exactly how life works. Okay, so let's just pause for a moment. Thank you so much, Facebook and YouTube. Next week, we're still talking spirituality, and I'll be sharing a video clip of an interview that I did again in 2016. It was a very powerful year. And this was an interview with Michael Beckwith from The Secret, The Law of Attraction, for those of you who might be familiar. He looks kind of different now because he's cut his locks, but he's talking about the new business model that we are to adopt in this new era. Remember, it was 2016, but when you hear it, how relevant it's going to sound to today. So till then, take care, enough love, and